Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to my podcast. On today's show, I'm going to be talking a little bit about poetry. You know, poetry is a form of communication that uses rhythm and sound, very different from prose. In prose, that's when you have your full force structured sentence, one after the other. But not only is poetry different in the sense that when you hear it or read it, it sounds different, but even when you see it, it looks different. In that poetry is lined up in lines collected into something called stanzas. Sometimes a poem can be simply 3 lines, or it could be 2 stanzas of 4 lines each. You, the poet, can decide for yourself. You know, often when poets write their poems, they spend quite a bit of time rearranging their words, dropping, adding, thinking, and so on and so forth. And as you know, being in school, you're often encouraged to use figurative language to create a poem that, let's say, has repetition or has something called alliteration. The sound is repeated in, the same sound is repeated in several words, or perhaps onomatopoeia, or using metaphors and similes or personification, or you give a description of a human to something that is not human at all. But you know, I met a poem not long ago and I asked him, I said, do you consciously think about these literary forms, these, different techniques when you write poetry? And his answer was surprising, but really not too surprising. And he said, no, I just simply write from the heart. And so I invite you, boys and girls, this summer to do just that. There is no need to have such a structured way of writing anything that inspires you. And you're the one who can determine if it's really a poem or not. You know, poetry, it is known, gives voice, song to our silent dreams and aspirations. And so I'm going to read you today 2 poems, one that I wrote and one that my daughter wrote. And the first one goes like this. The farmer did not lie. The field was in a frenzy. Heavy green wheat kernels swayed, and I likened them to the waves of the ocean. An invisible hand caressed the tasseled tops, and ripples of varying green surrendered in a bough. A solitary bird flew above. Still, the young, restless with passion for each stalk, lay waiting to reach its golden hue. The farmer did not lie. What he planted was wheat, just like he said. Hard to believe a seed could lie dormant since last November, under a foot of snow, just sly inches, deep with a promise. It did not stir, no concern with all the ongoings right above itself. It just waited. Without fanfare or worry, it began to divide one microcell at a time. First it resembled a blade of grass packed in endless neat rows of Kelly green against the deep chocolate brown soil, until it reached its peak of gold-seeded stalks, all arranged in a neat package of itself. No, the farmer did not lie. And to give you a little background about that, it was back in last November that I came out here and there was nothing here. And I saw the farmer and I said, hey, what are you doing out here? He says, well, I'm planting some wheat. And for the life of me, I thought, he's planting wheat, but it's November. Why would he plant it at that time? And lo and behold, come the spring, those seeds that he planted actually grew. And what you see here is the result of all those plantings. Absolutely beautiful. The second poem I'm going to read goes like this, and it was written by my daughter. Kitty likes to bathe in a square of sunlight on our kitchen floor. When I walk by, sometimes he sees me and squints his eyes, acknowledging my human and feline presence. I know he's nearby by the sound of a tinkling bell he wears on his blue collar. It reminds me of Christmas, the way it jingles. Kitty has soft paws. I call them kit mittens. When he tucks them in, he reminds me of a bunny. Kitty loves to be outside and look up at the trees where the birds fly and tweet. I always stop him, even when he climbs up a tree ready to pounce. Kitty can turn into a tiger on the hunt when he's outside. But then, when he's tired, he curls up into a ball of soft fur, waiting to be held. Kitty likes to bathe in a square of sunlight on our kitchen floor. And the fact remains, boys and girls, that one can write a poem about anything, including, as we just read, including a poem on a kitty cat. And so if you have a pet at home or anything that strikes you, it could be a rocking chair, it could be a tree outside your window, it could be an old picture from a long time ago. You will get feelings and ideas for those images, and lo and behold, you just might be the next poet. And you know what else? You can collect those poems in a book and maybe someday publish them. Did you see that? Kitty just spied those butterflies. See you guys. Be well. What, Kitty?